These aren't your average tips. These are 19 psychological hacks so powerful, they'll make you feel like you have mind control. From subtle body language tricks to persuasion tactics used by top negotiators, once you learn these, you'll start to see the world and people's behavior completely differently. Why saying "could you" instantly makes you sound weak, and what to say instead. Language is more than communication. It is a reflection of identity, an assertion of presence, and a subtle declaration of one's place in the world. Every phrase we choose carries with it not just information but energy, emotional weight, psychological signals, and social cues. Within the vast landscape of human interaction, few expressions seem as harmless, yet as quietly disempowering as the phrase "could you?" On the surface, it feels polite and civil, an innocuous way of asking for something. But beneath that surface lies a current of hesitation, self-doubt, and an unspoken plea for approval. This chapter will peel back the linguistic layers of "could you" to reveal why such a seemingly courteous phrase can dilute your authority, sap your influence, and unintentionally frame you as someone who is unsure, submissive, or even irrelevant. And more importantly, what to say instead to command respect without sacrificing kindness or human warmth. Imagine for a moment two people standing on the edge of a lake. One person steps forward confidently and says, "Let's row to the other side." The other says, "Could you maybe row us across?" The difference is subtle in words but seismic in implication. The first person asserts direction and intention. The second offers a suggestion disguised as a request, wrapped in a blanket of deference. The problem is not asking for help or collaboration, it's the way the ask is structured. The moment we frame a request with "could you," we introduce a hypothetical that invites rejection and signals uncertainty. It's as if we're saying, "I'm not sure if you'd be willing. I'm not sure if I deserve to ask. I'm not sure if I matter enough for this to be a demand." This phrasing places the power squarely in the other person's hands, which can be appropriate in certain settings, but devastating in others, especially when leadership, persuasion, or negotiation is at stake. Let us draw an analogy from architecture. Consider a bridge. It must be both functional and strong, capable of bearing weight and facilitating passage. If "could you" is the equivalent of building a suspension bridge with dental floss, then "please do" or "I need you to" is the steel. Structure reinforced with concrete. One wobbles under scrutiny. The other stands tall and unyielding. The truth is, power dynamics exist in every conversation, whether we acknowledge them or not. Language is the scaffolding upon which those dynamics are built. When you habitually soften your statements with "could you," you erode the foundation of your credibility bit by bit. It may not be noticeable at first, but over time, it accumulates into a posture of habitual weakness. This issue becomes even more pronounced in professional environments, where confidence and clarity are currencies of influence. A manager who consistently asks, "Could you send me the report by Friday?" instead of "Please send me the report by Friday," subtly undermines their own authority. The former implies that the action is optional, that the listener has the right to decline or negotiate. The latter communicates expectation without aggression. It says, "I trust you'll do this," not, "if it's not too much trouble." In the realm of business, leadership, and even everyday social hierarchies, how you ask is as important, sometimes more so, than what you ask for. Words like "could you" or "would you mind" cloak your intent in layers of permission-seeking, as if you're apologizing for your needs. To be clear, we're not advocating for rudeness or command-style authoritarianism. The goal is not to strip communication of empathy, but to clothe it in strength. Politeness is a virtue, but when it is fused with weakness, it morphs into passivity. The alternative to could you rhyme is not barking orders. It's assertive clarity. For instance, instead of saying, could you help me with this presentation? Say, I'd appreciate your help with this presentation. You're still being polite, still inviting collaboration, but you're doing so from a place of self-assuredness rather than dependency. The frame has shifted. You are not asking for permission to ask. You are expressing a need confidently, assuming the validity of your voice. Consider how children interact with authority. A child who says, "Can I please have some juice?" is clearly depending on the adult's permission. The phrasing indicates a power imbalance. Now imagine a peer, a coworker, or a leader using the same approach. It feels incongruent. Adults, who speak as if they're seeking constant validation, often struggle to be taken seriously. It's not about tone. It's about the underlying psychological message. Every "could you" is a whisper of insecurity. Every "I need you to" or "please do" is a declaration of clarity and vision. The difference becomes starker when urgency or seriousness is involved. Picture a hospital emergency room. A nurse turning to a doctor and saying, "Could you look at this patient?" is a universe away from "we need your attention here, now." The former introduces a delay, an opening for doubt, while the latter eliminates ambiguity. In moments of pressure, clarity is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And this applies beyond literal emergencies. In leadership, sales, education, and even personal relationships, soft language can breed confusion, while decisive language generates trust. Let's also explore the psychology of receivers. When someone hears "could you," they subconsciously receive it as a choice. Even if they say yes, they may treat the task with less urgency, commitment, or enthusiasm. Why? Because your words didn't carry conviction. You asked, but you didn't assert. In contrast, when you say, "I need this done by today," you activate a different part of their brain, the one that responds to clarity and expectation. It's not about dominance. It's about focus. Just as a flashlight beam becomes more powerful when concentrated, your words gain persuasive force when they are direct and specific. Think of human interaction as a dance of energies. Every phrase we utter either contracts or expands our personal power. "Could you" is a contraction. It pulls inward, retreating from risk, sidestepping confrontation. "Let's do" or "I need" is an expansion. It radiates intention, opening the space for action. The paradox is that most people use "could you" out of fear. Fear of being too forceful, of offending, of being rejected. But this fear itself invites disrespect. When you fear the edges of your power, others will sense that and treat you accordingly. Another compelling way to frame this issue is through the metaphor of a ship captain. Imagine two captains giving the same order. One says, "Could you maybe adjust the sails if you're not too busy?" The other says, "Adjust the sails now, we need to catch the wind." The crew's response will not hinge on what was said, but how. The first captain seems unsure, perhaps unworthy of command. The second radiates clarity and resolve. The ship moves because the captain moved first. With certainty. You don't have to yell to steer the ship, but you do have to believe in the direction you're pointing. Now, some might argue that "could you" is just being polite, that it reflects emotional intelligence and social grace. But politeness without boundaries is people-pleasing. There is a line between courtesy and cowardice, and it is drawn in the vocabulary of self-respect. Being assertive does not mean being harsh. Saying, "Please send this by tomorrow," is still courteous. It acknowledges the other person's autonomy while asserting your own expectations. In fact, people often appreciate direction more than ambiguity. Clarity builds trust. Vagueness breeds anxiety. Let's translate these concepts into practical language alternatives. Instead of, "Could you check this when you have time?" say, "Please check this by 3 p.m." Instead of, "Could you cover for me tomorrow?" say, "I need coverage for tomorrow. Can you confirm?" These may seem small tweaks, but in the game of influence, every syllable matters. Language is the interface between thought and action. Upgrade the interface and you upgrade the results. The shift from "could you quine" to stronger phrasing is not just about words, it's about mindset. It requires unlearning patterns of self-minimization and adopting a frame of internal authority. You are not a beggar knocking at the door of someone else's will. You are a collaborator, a leader, a creator inviting participation from a place of worth. Your needs, ideas, and intentions deserve to be stated, not suggested. When you honor your voice, others do too. In closing, let's return to the lake metaphor. Life will often place you on the shore of uncertainty, holding the oars of potential. You can stand there, hesitant, whispering, "Could you row me across?" Or, you can take the oars in hand, look the other person in the eye and say, "Let's row." The latter will not always guarantee compliance, but it will always ensure clarity. It will say to the world, "I am here. I am certain. I have a destination in mind." And that, ultimately, is the power of language. Not to manipulate, not to control, but to declare presence and purpose. Every time you replace "could you" with confident clarity, you reinforce the unshakable truth that your voice matters, not because others allow it, but because you choose to believe it. 2. The one trick that makes anyone uncomfortable in seconds, use with caution. There exists a psychological tool so potent, so unnervingly effective, that when used with precision, it can unravel someone's emotional composure in mere seconds. It doesn't involve shouting, threatening, or even touching. It is not manipulation in the traditional sense. It is a mirror, silent, penetrating, unrelenting. The trick? Prolonged, unbroken eye contact without expression. This may sound simple, too simple to be powerful. But human interaction is governed by unwritten codes, deeply rooted in our evolutionary past. One of the strongest of these codes is the unspoken contract of eye contact. We expect it to be fluid, momentary, and purposeful. Break the rules, hold it too long, maintain it without blinking, stare without smiling, and you disrupt that contract. Instantly, tension floods the space. A strange heat rises. The room thickens with invisible discomfort. Something ancient
inside us awakens alert and uncertain. To understand why this works, we need to step into the jungle of primal psychology. In the animal kingdom, eye contact signals dominance or threat. Predators lock eyes with prey just before the strike. 2.
Alpha wolves will stare each other down before one submits. Humans, despite our polished veneers and social etiquette, are no different beneath the surface. When someone looks directly into your eyes and does not look away, not for social comfort, not for politeness, not even to blink, it triggers your fight or flight response. You begin to question, what do they want? Why aren't they blinking? Are they judging me? Are they challenging me? What makes this trick especially unsettling is that it's silent. Silence itself can be uncomfortable, but when combined with direct, unwavering eye contact, it creates a psychological vacuum. Most people, when placed under the lens of extended visual attention, begin to feel exposed. Their mind races to fill the silence, to rationalize the intensity. Some fidget, others avert their gaze, a few will attempt to laugh it off. But inside, almost everyone feels it. the creeping unease of being seen too much. Let's compare this to a theatrical spotlight. On a dark stage, a sudden beam illuminates one actor. The audience's eyes are drawn in. The actor, if unprepared, feels vulnerable, disoriented, defenseless. That is what this trick does. It puts the person in your mental spotlight, and you hold it. Not with aggression, not with menace, but with disarming stillness. The more emotionless your expression, the more potent the effect. You are not reacting, you are witnessing. Why is this so powerful? Because people are constantly self-monitoring. They're evaluating how they look, how they're perceived, how much control they have over a situation. When you remove the expected cues, when you don't smile, nod, blink, or speak, they lose the feedback loop that helps them feel socially safe. They feel they've lost control of the narrative. This is not about intimidation in the physical sense, but about psychological disruption. You are flipping the script in a silent war of attention. Now use this with caution. This is not a party trick. This is a psychological blade, and if wielded carelessly, it can damage relationships, spark defensiveness, or ignite resentment. It is a tool best reserved for moments when you need to establish dominance without words, challenge someone's composure without aggression, or shift the emotional balance in a negotiation, interrogation, or confrontation. It is particularly effective when someone is posturing or trying to manipulate you. Your silent stare becomes a wall they cannot climb. Let's consider an example. A person is lying to you. They know it, you know it, but they're spinning a web with confidence. Most people would try to interrupt, correct, argue, or express doubt. Instead, you say nothing. You look into their eyes and hold your gaze, expressionless, still. The lie begins to unravel, not because you exposed it, but because the weight of your gaze asked a question louder than words ever could. Are you sure you want to continue? Another scenario. A workplace meeting where someone is undermining your authority. Rather than responding with defensiveness, you simply meet their gaze and hold it longer than what feels comfortable. You send no signals of approval or disapproval, just presence. The pressure you exert is not emotional but existential. You are declaring without speaking that you will not be moved. The silence forces them to hear their own voice echo, to feel the imbalance of energy, to second-guess themselves. This technique also works in reverse. If someone uses it on you, recognize it for what it is, a psychological play. The key to diffusing it is to smile slightly, blink slowly, and reintroduce the social contract with ease. The discomfort they hope to provoke dissolves under your calm, confident reassertion of control. The reason this technique works so reliably is because of the intensity of being fully seen. Most people are not used to that. We live behind masks. We smile when we're uncomfortable. We deflect with humor. We break eye contact to retreat into safety. But when someone refuses to play that game, when they simply watch, present, unflinching, it strips away those defenses. What remains is raw, vulnerable self-awareness. This is why interrogators use this method, why therapists sometimes use it to prompt emotional breakthroughs, why romantic moments become electric when eyes lock and time slows. Eye contact, sustained and silent, is not neutral. It is loaded with intention. The trick is understanding your intent, and whether it serves the outcome you truly want. So, should you use this trick? Yes, but wisely. Use it when you need to regain control of a situation, when someone is trying to manipulate you, when silence will speak louder than confrontation. Don't use it to humiliate, intimidate, or dominate unless absolutely necessary. This is not about turning people into puddles of discomfort for sport. It's about knowing that presence is power, and sometimes the greatest statement is made without speaking a word. In the end, This one trick doesn't just make others uncomfortable. It reveals who is comfortable in their own skin. Who can sit in silence? Who can bear the weight of being truly seen? And that perhaps is the ultimate mirror. It shows not just them, but you. 3. The power pause. How one silent stare can expose a liar. In a world saturated with noise, where words often fly faster than thought, and where deception dances behind polished smiles, silence has become one of the most underappreciated weapons in human interaction. And when that silence is coupled with deliberate, penetrating eye contact, it transforms into something far more powerful: the power pause. This technique, simple in appearance, is devastating in effect. With nothing more than a sustained, silent stare, you can pierce through facades, disrupt false narratives, and expose a liar's fragile web of deceit. It begins with presence, true, grounded, unwavering presence. When someone lies, they are not only juggling a story, they are performing. They are actors on a mental stage trying to manage your perception while keeping track of their fabricated script. But the power pause interrupts that performance. It does not engage. It does not react. It merely observes, and in doing so, it shifts the entire emotional gravity of the conversation. Imagine a courtroom. A witness delivers a statement, their voice steady, their expression neutral. But the prosecutor says nothing. No objection, no follow-up. Just a long, deliberate pause. Their eyes lock onto the witness. The room becomes still. That silence becomes deafening. The witness begins to fidget. They glance away. Their throat tightens. Why? Because silence demands something the liar cannot comfortably give: authenticity. The power pause functions on this exact principle. It replaces confrontation with stillness. It does not accuse. It observes. And in that vacuum, the liar becomes acutely aware of themselves. They sense the discrepancy between their outer performance and the inner truth. Their nervous system, already taxed from the effort of deception, begins to falter. Micro-expressions surface. Body language betrays them. The eyes dart. The voice rises slightly when speech returns. Their story loses rhythm. The subconscious can no longer hold the act together. But what makes this technique truly profound is how little you have to do. It is not aggressive. It is not manipulative in the typical sense. It's passive power. The pause forces the liar to confront not only you, but themselves. In a way, it is a mirror held up to their soul, and what they see, they can no longer avoid. To understand this more deeply, consider the psychology of lying. Lying creates a cognitive load. The liar must remember the false version of events, monitor your reactions, manage their tone, control their body language, and suppress guilt or anxiety, all at once. That mental juggling act is sustainable only under distraction. As long as the liar can keep talking, shift topics, or provoke an emotional response from you, they stay in control. But the power pause takes all of that away. It gives them nothing to play with. Just space. Just silence. Just your eyes. And suddenly they are alone on stage, the spotlight burning hotter than they imagined. Here's how it works in real life. Let's say someone is telling you a story that doesn't quite add up. You don't interrupt. You don't argue. You wait for them to finish. Then, you say nothing. You simply look at them. Calm, centered, still. You let the moment breathe. You resist the urge to fill the silence with your own voice. And then it happens. The liar begins to squirm. They may chuckle, nervously. They may offer unnecessary details, Or they may even blurt out something unplanned because they feel the silence accusing them more than any words could. This technique is especially effective because it leverages social discomfort. Most people are profoundly uneasy in silence, especially when they sense scrutiny. The liar, however, experiences something deeper: psychological exposure. They are used to dancing behind words. The power pause removes the music. Now they're left to confront their own dissonance. What separates the power pause from mere awkward silence is intention. You are not zoning out. You are not uncertain. You are watching, with purpose. That intention is felt, even if unspoken. It creates pressure, not aggressive but inescapable. The liar knows they are being studied, not attacked, not judged, studied. And in that space, truth begins to quake beneath the surface. Let's take an analogy. A lie is like a house built on sand, shiny and structured on the outside, but hollow underneath. The power pause is not a wrecking ball, it's erosion. Silent, still, patient, but relentless. Given just enough time, the facade begins to collapse. And the best part? They do it themselves. You didn't call them out, you didn't accuse, you simply gave their lie room to fall apart under its own weight. But with great power comes great responsibility. The power pause is not for intimidation. It's not a game. It is a tool for uncovering truth, and it should be used with clarity of intent. Use it when you sense dishonesty. Use it when words fail to get answers. Use it when you want to hold someone accountable without triggering a defensive war of words. Do not use it to humiliate, manipulate, or dominate for ego's sake. Because, when misused, it becomes coercion. But when wielded with integrity, it becomes truth's ally. The power pause is also a reflection of your own emotional maturity. To maintain that silence, to resist the pull to speak, to comfort, to react, requires inner stillness. If you're using the power pause but fidgeting, sighing, or shifting uncomfortably, it loses its edge. It works only when you are anchored, when your presence is calm and unshakable. In that calm, the liar finds no grip, no exit, no distraction. It is no coincidence that this technique is used by seasoned negotiators, interrogators, and therapists. They know that sometimes the silence says more than words ever could. They understand that the person across from them will often fill that silence with their own truth, because they can't help it. The pause pulls it out of them. And so, if you truly want to uncover a lie, don't rush, don't confront. Don't overpower. Pause. Look. Wait. In that silent stare, you are not just watching them, you are inviting the truth to surface. Let the liar's own discomfort do the work. Let their own mind unravel the fiction. Let the silence be the stage upon which the truth inevitably performs. Because in a world addicted to noise, silence is the loudest call for honesty. 4. The yes hack. How nodding silently can make people agree with you without knowing why. We often think persuasion is about eloquence, how artfully we string words together to sway opinions, spark emotions, and tip decisions in our favor. But, in the subtle realm of body language, the most persuasive actions are often wordless. Among the most underestimated of these is a simple, nearly invisible gesture: the nod. When deployed correctly, especially in silence, this small motion can be a psychological lever, gently nudging others into agreement, without them ever realizing it. This technique is known as the yes hack, the silent nod that makes people agree with you, not through logic, not through evidence, but through something far more primal. And while it may seem almost too simple to believe, beneath this modest motion lies a profound truth about human nature. We are wired to mirror. Humans are social creatures, finely tuned to detect and subconsciously replicate the emotional and physical cues of those around us. This mimicry isn't a learned behavior, it's biological. Our brains are equipped with mirror neurons, which fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing it. This is how babies learn language, how crowds become swept up in collective emotion, and, critically, how we come to agree with others. We nod when others nod. We smile when others smile. We lean in when others lean in. Now, apply this understanding to communication. When you're speaking and nodding, especially subtly, rhythmically, and with a calm demeanor, the person you're speaking to is more likely to mirror you. But here's the trick. Nodding is not neutral. In our cultural and psychological framework, nodding has a meaning. It signifies agreement, affirmation, yes. So when someone mirrors your nod, even unconsciously, they are not just mimicking your motion. They are internally aligning with the concept of agreement. It's not magic. It's not manipulation. It's behavioral momentum. You're using their mind's autopilot to create a bridge toward agreement. And if timed right, the silent nod becomes a quiet, invisible invitation. Come with me. This is safe. This is right. And more often than not, people will, without even knowing why. Let's consider a real-life example. A seasoned salesperson presents an idea to a client. This solution will streamline your operations by 30%. And as they say this, they nod, slowly, confidently, as if confirming a truth they already believe. The client, almost unconsciously, begins to nod too. And in that shared motion, resistance softens. The client feels like they're being led toward a conclusion, not forced. Agreement becomes a rhythm, not a battle. Or imagine a manager pitching a change in company policy. Rather than delivering the pitch with static posture and flat expression, they lean in, voice steady, and gently nod while outlining the benefits. The audience, sensing conviction, certainty, and calm, begins to align emotionally. Agreement is no longer about analysis, it's about atmosphere. This is the subtle brilliance of the yes hack. It bypasses the critical gatekeeper of the mind, logic, and appeals directly to the subconscious. Not to trick or deceive, but to create comfort, resonance, and emotional congruence. The nod becomes a non-verbal suggestion, like a whisper directly to the limbic system. This feels right. But as with all subtle psychological tools, context and intent matter deeply. If you nod too aggressively, too often, or in contradiction to what you're actually saying, you trigger suspicion rather than agreement. The magic is in the balance. Your nod must match your words, your energy, your intention. It should feel natural, not performed, and timing is everything. The most powerful moment to use the nod is during a key point of influence, right after a strong statement or a clear proposition. The silent nod reinforces the message like an exclamation mark made of movement. It's saying, this is important, this is real. And because most people are scanning your body for cues even more than they're processing your words, the nod becomes a signal flare of certainty. Let's break it down into phases. Foundation of credibility. Before the nod ever happens, the groundwork must be laid. Your posture must be confident but not aggressive, your tone warm, grounded, and assured. If people sense manipulation, the spell is broken. The yes hack only works when people trust the surface enough to follow the undercurrent. Synchronized. Messaging, your words and nod must align. If you say, "You might not agree with this," while nodding, you create a discomfort loop. The listener's subconscious fights with their logic. But say, "You'll find this incredibly useful," and nod slowly, and the message becomes unified. The body affirms what the mouth declares. Controlled repetition do not overuse. A constant nod becomes robotic and loses its persuasive rhythm. Nodding should be sparing, thoughtful, and timed with emphasis. Like punctuation in speech, it highlights the most important parts, not every line. Strategic silence. One of the most powerful ways to use the nod is in silence. After making your point, rather than rushing into the next sentence, pause. Hold their gaze. Nod. Let the idea sink in. That space gives your message weight, and your nod becomes the soft pressure that nudges their subconscious toward agreement. Let us think of the yes hack as a form of verbal gravity. You are not pulling someone toward you with force. You're letting them feel the quiet gravity of your conviction. Nodding doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It whispers a kind of emotional certainty that feels easier to agree with than resist. To better understand this, imagine someone offering you a seat. They don't speak. They just smile and nod toward the chair. Instinctively, you step forward. Why? Because the nod carried invitation, certainty, and safety, all without a word. This is the deeper truth of persuasion. People don't always follow logic. They follow energy. The energy of a nod is affirmative, grounding, and emotionally contagious. It works because people want to feel in sync with those around them. Agreement feels like harmony, and a silent nod is the first note. In leadership, in sales, in relationships, in moments of conflict or negotiation, this simple gesture can shift the tides. Not because it manipulates, but because it connects. It shows presence. It says, I believe in what I'm saying and you can too. The yes hack reminds us that we are not just creatures of intellect but of rhythm, resonance, and subtle cues. It is a reminder that silence can speak volumes and that movement, when paired with intention, can shape thoughts and decisions more effectively than arguments ever could. So the next time you're in a crucial conversation, don't just listen to what's being said. Watch the energy. Align your body with your message. And when the moment comes, pause, nod, and let the silent agreement echo back. You may not hear the word yes, but you'll feel it. 5. Need something from someone busy? This one body language move works like magic. In a world where everyone seems to be racing against the clock, vying for attention feels like shouting into a storm. We're all busy, distracted, overwhelmed, buried in to-do lists and notifications. So when you need something from someone who's clearly preoccupied, just asking nicely often gets you nowhere. Pleasantries fall flat, emails go unanswered, requests are brushed off or postponed indefinitely. But what if I told you that one silent, effortless body language move could quietly cut through the noise and work like magic? It's not manipulation. It's not bribery. It's body alignment. A physical gesture of presence, humility, and attentiveness that speaks louder than any plea or pitch. The subtle lean in with open palms. This move, when timed and executed with intent, creates a quiet, psychological shift. It tells the other person, without saying a word, that you're not here to waste their time, challenge their energy, or demand something unjustified. You're here with purpose. You're human. You're here with respectful urgency. Let's explore the science and strategy behind why this move works so effectively, especially with busy people whose time is guarded like a fortress. The psychology of the lean-in. Body language experts and psychologists alike have long studied the impact of spatial dynamics in communication. When we subtly lean forward, just slightly, not intrusively, we communicate engagement. We say, I'm with you, I'm present, I'm invested. Combine that with open palms, a universally recognized gesture of honesty and vulnerability, and you ignite something primal in the other person's brain: trust. You see, the human mind is deeply tuned to threat detection. In every interaction, especially under stress, the subconscious is scanning for cues. Is this person a threat? A time waster? A distraction? When you lean in slightly, you reduce psychological distance. You say, "I'm not just another voice in the chaos. I'm real. I respect your space, but I value your time enough to meet you where you are." And the open palms. That's your invisible ID badge of authenticity. Why busy people respond differently? Busy people, CEOs, parents, creators, service workers, anyone, balancing multiple responsibilities, tend to build walls consciously or not. These walls are meant to protect their focus. When someone approaches them with high energy, demands, or vagueness, those walls rise higher. But when someone approaches with calm, grounded body language, those defenses soften. Let's look at a workplace scenario. Imagine a team leader buried in emails, meetings, and deadlines. Everyone wants a piece of them. Now imagine you walk up. Don't interrupt mid-thought, but pause. You lean in slightly, not too close, and position your body at an angle, not directly head-on, which can feel confrontational. You hold your hands in front of you, palms slightly open, relaxed, not stiff or tense. Then you say something simple, like, "Hey, I know you've got a lot going on. Can I take 90 seconds to run something by you?" But here's the secret. It's not the words that do the heavy lifting. It's the posture. The lean in and open palms telegraph that you're not there to impose. You've already done something that 90% of people forget to do in a request: respect space while expressing intention. The busy person may glance up, their stress still buzzing, but their body, mirroring yours, begins to slow down. They might not give you the time or at least schedule a slot. Why? Because they felt your respect before they heard your words. The ancient roots of trust. Anthropologically, showing open palms was once a survival signal. In tribal societies, raising your hands with your palms visible communicated peaceful intentions. I have no weapons, I mean no harm. This instinct hasn't left us. Even in modern boardrooms or coffee shops, an open palm, especially paired with gentle movement, signals emotional safety. It's no wonder we say things like, "I just want to lay my cards on the table," or, "Let's be open about this, that." Openness isn't just metaphorical, it's visceral. When and how to use this move. Timing is crucial. Don't leap into action the moment you see your target. Observe them first. Are they in the middle of something critical? Are they moving fast or seated and focused? Adjust accordingly. Step 1. Approach with pause. Don't barge in. Let your stillness be felt. Let them become aware of you without being startled. Step 2. Slight lean in. Just a few degrees forward, enough to suggest attention, not invasion. This reduces the power gap and shows willingness to connect. Step 3. Open palms. Rest your hands together loosely in front of you or let them gesture naturally. Palms should be visible, not in fists, pockets, or crossed arms. Step 4. Speak clearly and briefly. Busy people value brevity. Your body language already bought you a moment. Now use it wisely. Step 5. Read the cues. If they reciprocate, by nodding, facing you, making eye contact, they're engaging. Proceed. If they remain closed off, back off with grace. That too leaves an impression. The energy behind the move. The lean in with open palms isn't just a gesture. It's a transmission of energy. It says, I come in peace. I value you, but I also value what I bring. I'm not a problem. I'm a solution, or at least a person who respects your time. That energetic stance is disarming. It creates a moment of human connection, rare and valuable in a world that often feels transactional and rushed. This is why it feels like magic, not because it breaks rules, but because it taps into something older than language. A story to remember. Young entrepreneur once needed advice from a high-profile investor at a crowded event. Everyone else pitched with rehearsed elevator speeches, flyers, and flashy demos. This entrepreneur did something different. They waited for a natural pause, then stepped forward slowly, leaned in slightly, hands relaxed, no rush, no pressure. I know you probably get pitched all day. I just wanted to say thank you for inspiring me. And if there's ever a moment you'd be open to a conversation, I'd be honored. The investor looked up, smiled, and said, Let's talk now. Why? The posture, the energy, the respect. Not the pitch, the respectful shortcut. There are no true shortcuts in human interaction. People can sense inauthenticity a mile away. But what the Lean In with Open Palms offers is something even better than a shortcut. A bridge. A bridge to attention, to trust, and ultimately, to connection. So next time you need something from someone who's drowning in demands, don't push harder. Don't talk faster. Don't plead. Instead, pause, lean in. Let your body say what your words can't. That's when the magic happens. 6. Challenge accepted. How doubting someone's ability makes them prove you wrong every time. There is a switch buried deep inside every human being, a raw, electric response to one of the oldest provocations in human history, being doubted. Few things cut deeper than someone questioning your competence. And yet, paradoxically, few things are more powerful in activating the full force of someone's capabilities. The moment someone hears the words, I don't think you can do it, something ancient stirs. Muscles tighten, breath deepens, resolve ignites, challenge accepted. Welcome to the quiet psychology of reverse motivation, the art of triggering performance not by encouragement, but by doubt. This is not about cruelty or manipulation. It's about understanding a universal truth. When the human ego feels underestimated, it doesn't retreat. It prepares for battle. And in that preparation lies explosive growth, unstoppable drive, and results that often surpass the limits even the individual believed they had. Let's peel back the layers of this powerful phenomenon, understand why it works, when it works, and how to ethically use it, to inspire others, to awaken hidden potential, and even to motivate yourself when belief falters. The fire beneath insult. Ego as fuel. Imagine the human ego as a furnace. Most of the time it hums quietly in the background, warming our confidence, sustaining our self-worth. But throw in a log of doubt, and the fire roars to life. There is something deeply primal about being underestimated. From the child told, they're not smart enough, to the employee passed over for promotion, to the athlete benched in favor of a rival. The reaction is nearly always the same. I'll show you. This isn't arrogance. It's a demand for personal justice. Doubt, especially when spoken aloud, creates a perceived imbalance. The ego feels wronged, and it moves to correct the equation. It fuels performance not to seek applause, but to reclaim identity. This is why stories of triumph often begin with failure, rejection, or ridicule. Think of Thomas Edison, told he was too stupid to learn anything, or Oprah Winfrey fired for being unfit for TV, or Michael Jordan cut from his high school basketball team. These are not sad stories. They are ignition points, the moment the switch flipped and determination overrode doubt. The physics of psychological rebellion. When someone says, "you can't," it acts like emotional gravity. The default response is rebellion. This rebellion is rooted in a core need: autonomy. We want to believe we are in control of our destiny, that our abilities can shape outcomes. When someone tells us otherwise, it feels like a cage. And the human soul doesn't sit quietly in cages. It rattles the bars until they bend. Metaphorically, doubting someone's ability introduces a locked door. For most, this is not a signal to turn back. It's an invitation to pick the lock. The more confidently that door is declared unopenable, the greater the urge to prove otherwise. Psychologists refer to this as reactance theory, a reaction to perceived threats to freedom. When we're told what we can't do, we instinctively push back. Not always because we want to, but because we need to reassert control over our narrative. This explains why challenges often outperform encouragement in motivating certain individuals. Encouragement comforts. Doubt provokes the dangerous power of strategic doubt. Let's be clear, this isn't a green light to go around belittling others in the name of motivation. Doubt, if poorly timed or delivered without respect, can destroy rather than inspire. But when used with nuance, it can unlock heroic effort. The key lies in tone and relationship. If a coach, mentor, or friend raises a challenge with a twinkle of belief hidden behind it, it becomes a gauntlet thrown in trust. It says, "I'm not sure you can do this, but I think you can surprise me." That's when the challenge becomes irresistible. Think of it like teasing a sleeping lion. If done with care, it wakes the beast, not to attack, but to run the hunt. But if done with cruelty, it backfires. The person doesn't feel inspired, they feel wounded. And wounded people often don't rise, they retreat. Real-life story: the engineer who was told, "It's impossible." There was once a junior engineer working in a massive tech company. He pitched a redesign that would make the software run 70% faster. His idea was unconventional, outside protocol, and potentially brilliant. His supervisor looked him in the eye and said, "You'll never pull that off. It's way over your head." That night, the engineer didn't go home. He stayed. He worked for 72 hours straight. And when he presented his prototype that Monday, it not only worked, it revolutionized the product's core system. When asked what pushed him, he didn't say passion. He didn't say opportunity. He said, "I was pissed off." That's the thing about doubting someone's ability. You don't light a gentle flame. You strike a match next to dynamite. When self-doubt is the trigger, this isn't just about external motivation. Sometimes you are the doubter. You whisper to yourself, "You're not ready, you're not good enough, you're probably going to fail." Here's where it gets interesting. You can flip the dynamic. You can respond to your own doubt with defiance. Instead of collapsing under it, treat it like an enemy voice, an external challenger trying to rob you of your story. Say to yourself, "Oh yeah? Watch me." This shift turns self-doubt into a sparring partner, not a captor. It becomes fuel. Your own disbelief becomes the dark matter that propels the rocket. Many successful people don't eliminate self-doubt. They dance with it. They challenge it back. Ethical provocation: how to use it to inspire others. If you're a leader, coach, teacher, or parent, you've probably seen people undersell themselves. You know they have the ability, but they don't see it yet. This is where ethical provocation can work miracles. Instead of saying, "I believe in you, try, I'm not sure you can pull this off." It's pretty intense, but if anyone can, it's probably you. Most people would fail at this. I wonder if you're built differently. You think you're too average for this? Prove me wrong. These phrases don't shame, they tease the greatness out of someone. They don't demand success, they dare it into existence. But remember, tone is everything. You're lighting a BDIA fuse, not starting a war. The goal is to awaken, not antagonize. The double-edged sword. Challenge-based motivation is a powerful tool, but it must be used with precision. Not everyone responds the same way. Some people carry trauma or hypersensitivity to doubt. What inspires one person could break another. The key is knowing your audience. Is this someone who thrives under pressure? Do they have a stubborn streak? Are they likely to channel doubt into action? If yes, you've got a potential champion on your hands. If not, choose another path. Motivation is not one size fits all. Doubt can be a spark, but only in the right weather. The beautiful rebellion. There's something beautiful about the human instinct to rise when told to stay down. It's the same force that builds empires, heals after heartbreak, and trains in silence when no one is watching. The next time someone doubts you, smirks at your ambition, mocks your plan, shrugs at your dreams, don't shrink, don't defend, don't explain, just smile, because they don't realize what they've done. They didn't discourage you, they lit the match. And now it's your turn to burn brighter than they ever imagined. 7. Want a better deal? Pretend to be disappointed. Here's why it works. There's a curious power in disappointment, one so subtle, so rooted in psychology, that most people overlook it. Yet in the world of negotiation, this silent cue can shift entire outcomes in your favor. No yelling, no threats, no complex counteroffers, just a sigh. A pause. A furrowed brow. And suddenly, the dynamic changes. Welcome to the art of strategic disappointment, a technique that feels almost too simple to be true. But the moment you pretend to be let down, even slightly, you flip the emotional energy in the room. You plant a seed of guilt, of second-guessing, of reconsideration. The other person starts to squirm, not because you demanded more, but because they feel like they offered too little. It's not manipulation. It's emotional leverage, and it works because it taps into one of the most powerful human impulses, the desire to be perceived as fair, generous, or competent. And when someone feels like they've let you down, especially without protest, they rush to fix it. Let's pull back the curtain on why pretending to be disappointed works like magic, and how to use this technique with class, empathy, and tremendous effectiveness, the psychological reflex of social reciprocity. Humans are wired to maintain social balance. When you smile at someone, they're likely to smile back. When you help someone move, they feel obligated to return the favor. This is called reciprocity, and it governs almost every interaction we have. But what happens when someone senses that they have disappointed you? A fascinating thing occurs. The balance tips and a subtle anxiety arises. People don't like feeling as if they've let someone down, especially if the reaction is non-confrontational. A quiet sigh of disappointment is like a mirror held up to their sense of fairness. It reflects not anger, but emotional dissatisfaction. And that's often more powerful. Unlike confrontation, disappointment doesn't trigger defensiveness. It triggers reflection, which is exactly where change begins. The power of the pause, silence as strategy. Imagine walking into a car dealership. You're negotiating the price. After going back and forth, the salesperson gives you a final offer. Instead of countering, you simply pause. You let your face fall, not dramatically, but enough. You look down, maybe murmur, I was really hoping for something better. Then you go quiet. That silence does more than fill the room. It creates psychological discomfort for them. In the absence of pushback, your reaction becomes the loudest thing in the room. You've said nothing aggressive. You've applied no pressure. And yet, you've made them doubt whether their offer was good enough. In a world where everyone is prepared to fight or flee, not reacting with outrage is disarming. It suggests that your standards are higher than the offer, and that you're quietly, powerfully walking away in your mind. That threat is often enough to bring them back with a better deal. Disappointment versus anger. Why the soft touch wins. Let's make one thing clear. Anger rarely works in negotiation. It may feel cathartic, but it triggers defensive walls and often ends conversations. Anger says, "You've wronged me and I want justice." Disappointment says, "I expected more from this interaction, and I'm quietly withdrawing my enthusiasm." Which one feels heavier? Exactly. Disappointment carries emotional gravity. It doesn't burn bridges, it cools them. It makes people want to rebuild them. They'll often sweeten the deal not because you demanded it, but because they feel like they should have done better. It's the difference between being forced and being compelled. People don't want to be coerced. They want to feel generous. Your disappointment gives them a chance to feel exactly that. The parent effect. A deep psychological trigger. Think back to childhood. What felt worse? Your parents yelling at you or looking at you and saying, "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed." That phrase didn't just sting, it haunted. It didn't provoke rebellion. It awakened guilt. And guilt, when paired with care, leads to correction. This is what psychologists call a nonverbal moral nudge. When someone perceives disappointment from someone they respect, or someone whose approval they subconsciously seek, they instinctively want to fix it. In adult life, this reflex doesn't disappear. If anything, it becomes more refined. People still crave approval, fairness, and a sense of mutual satisfaction. And when your body language says, "I thought this would go differently," their inner child, still seeking to do better, often responds with more favorable terms. Real-life example, the job offer that got a raise. Consider Maya, a software engineer interviewing for a mid-level position. After several rounds, she receives an offer. It's decent, but not great. Instead of launching into a counter-offer, she takes a different approach. She thanks the recruiter sincerely, pauses, and says, "Honestly, I was hoping for something that better reflects the value I bring." Then, she goes quiet. The recruiter, taken aback by the calm yet genuine disappointment, replies, "Let me see what I can do." Within 24 hours, Maya receives an updated offer, $12,000 higher. No fights, no ultimatums, just the subtle pressure of unmet expectations and the emotional drive of the other party to meet them. How to use this technique without being manipulative. There's a fine line between psychological strategy and manipulation. The difference lies in intent. If you're using disappointment to coerce or deceive, it backfires. But if you're using it to highlight emotional truth, that something doesn't feel fair or complete, then it becomes a tool of authentic communication. Here's how to do it right. Be sincere. Don't fake disappointment like a bad actor. Let it be subtle, like a moment of reflection. Don't speak too much. Silence is your ally. Let your quiet discomfort hang in the air. Let them fill the gap. Humans hate awkward silences. When you go quiet, most people rush to justify or improve the offer. Stay calm. Disappointment loses power when paired with emotional outbursts. Think still water, not boiling, and most importantly, use it sparingly. If you're disappointed every time you don't get what you want, people stop taking it seriously, like a teacher who gives every student an A. Your response loses value. Disappointment works best when it's rare and unexpected. when this technique doesn't work. Like any strategy, this isn't universal. Some people, especially those who lack empathy, won't care if you're disappointed. High-pressure salespeople, narcissists, or highly transactional individuals may not respond to emotional cues. Also, this technique doesn't work well when the stakes are low. If you're bargaining over a $5 discount at a street market, your sigh won't move mountains. But when the stakes are high, job offers, contracts, partnerships, emotional cues matter more than numbers. Know your context. Know your audience. Use the tool where it fits, the quiet strength of letting down your guard. In a world that celebrates aggressiveness in negotiation, forceful demands, verbal jousts, and elaborate counteroffers, it's easy to forget the quieter tools in our psychological toolkit. Disappointment is one of those tools. It doesn't shout, it doesn't fight, it withdraws. And in that gentle retreat, it invites the other party to close the emotional distance by offering more. So the next time you want a better deal, on a job, a contract, a sale, don't rush to argue. Try this instead. Let your eyes lower. Let your shoulders sink. Let a pause stretch longer than comfort allows. Then let the silence speak for you. You'll be surprised how loudly quiet disappointment can echo. 8. The weird morning trick that makes you feel like a champion, even after 3 hours of sleep. Let's face it, life doesn't always let you sleep. Whether it's deadlines, sick kids, heartbreak, or the anxious loop of your own thoughts keeping you up, there are mornings when you wake up feeling like your body is made of stone and your brain is stuck in molasses. 3 hours of sleep feels like a punishment, not a pause, and yet champions rise. But here's the secret. No one tells you don't need 8 hours of sleep to feel like a powerhouse. You just need to trick your system into believing it got what it needed, and that starts before you check your phone or sip your coffee. This chapter reveals one strange, but remarkably effective morning trick that elite performers, special forces operatives, and even burned-out entrepreneurs swear by. It sounds too simple, too weird to work, but it triggers a profound shift in your physiology, mindset, and momentum. And best of all, it takes less than 2 minutes. The first lie of the morning. I'm tired. Let's talk about the story we tell ourselves the moment we wake up. Most people open their eyes and immediately declare, I'm exhausted. This is going to be awful, or there's no way I can get through today. What you may not realize is that the first 90 seconds after waking are not about energy. They're about interpretation. Your brain, still groggy and floating in sleep hormones like adenosine and melatonin, is desperately scanning for cues. Are we safe? Are we strong? Are we ready? And whatever you feed it, it believes. The truth is, fatigue is often a feeling, not a fact. And like fog on a windshield, it can be cleared with the right action. That's where the weird trick comes in. The champion's trick. The victory pose. Plus, cold splash. Reset. Here it is. The weird, science-backed morning ritual that fools your body into thinking it's rested, resets your mood, and floods you with energy. Step 1. Stand tall, arms overhead in a V shape, chin up, chest out, and hold this victory pose for 60 seconds. Step 2. Immediately after, splash your face with icy, cold water, or step into a cold shower for 30 seconds. That's it. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Like something out of a self-help parody. But this combo does something extraordinary. It hijacks your body's stress response, reprograms your posture psychology, and slaps your brain into a state of alert triumph. Let's break it down. The victory pose. Hack your hormones. With body language social psychologist Amy Cuddy became famous for her research on power posing, where expansive body language, arms wide, back straight, chin high, increases testosterone and decreases cortisol, two hormones directly linked to confidence and stress. The victory pose isn't just about looking confident. It creates confidence. Even when you feel none, it sends a signal to your brain that says, "We've already won." And your brain, ever obedient, begins to follow that script. When done immediately after waking, this posture increases alertness, shifts mental focus from dread to determination, interrupts the downward spiral of "I'm tired" thoughts. Triggers better posture and deeper breathing, improving oxygen flow. You're not just standing like a winner, you're becoming one. The cold splash, reset, shock your brain into clarity. Right after the victory pose, you introduce the second half of the ritual, cold exposure. Cold water does more than wake you up. It forces your body into a moment of controlled stress, triggering a rush of norepinephrine, a natural brain chemical that boosts mood, focus, and energy. Think of it like hitting your nervous system's reset button. Even 30 seconds of cold water on your face or body will sharpen your mental state, reduce grogginess, lower inflammation, increase heart rate and alertness, provide a mini fight-or-flight spike to override fatigue. Combined with the victory pose, you've now changed your internal chemistry to mirror what a good night's sleep would feel like. High energy, low stress, forward momentum. Why this works, even when nothing else does. The brilliance of this trick lies in psychophysiological alignment, the idea that your mind and body are not separate. What you do with your body changes what you believe, and what you believe changes how you feel. By starting the day with a physical ritual of power and awakening, you interrupt the pattern of defeat and replace it with ritualized dominance over your own state, even if you slept for 3 hours, even if the day ahead looks brutal, even if part of you still wants to crawl under the covers and disappear. This 2-minute ritual gives your brain something else to follow. A map of momentum. The power of ritual. Over willpower, you might wonder, why not just drink coffee or force yourself to grind through it? Because willpower is a limited resource. It's a muscle that fatigues quickly, especially when you're underslept. Ritual, on the other hand, is sustainable. It doesn't ask for motivation. It becomes automatic. The most successful people on the planet don't rely on willpower to get out of bed. They rely on systems. And when your system starts with a trick that turns your weakest moment into a declaration of power, you change the entire trajectory of your day. This trick becomes a psychological anchor, a signal to your subconscious that no matter what happened the night before, you are not a victim of circumstance. You are the one who shows up anyway. Real life, from burnout to breakthrough. Consider Malik, a paramedic who often worked 24-hour shifts. His sleep was fragmented, unpredictable, and often non-existent. He found himself spiraling, groggy during emergencies, grumpy with loved ones, and questioning his competence. Then he started practicing this 2-minute ritual every morning, no matter how much or little sleep he got. Within days, he reported feeling more in control, more clear-headed, more capable. It wasn't just placebo. His colleagues noticed his increased focus. His mood stabilized. He even started going to the gym again, not because he had more energy, but because he felt like the kind of person who did hard things. He still had bad nights. But the mornings weren't defeats anymore. They were comebacks. A word of caution. Your mind will resist. The hardest part of this trick? Doing it. Your tired brain will fight it. It will whisper that you're too exhausted, that it won't work, that you're being silly, Ignore it. Do it anyway. Because in that moment, standing like a champion while your eyes are barely open, you're not just fooling your body. You're retraining your identity, from tired to triumphant, from victim to victor, from barely functioning to fully present. Champions aren't the best rested. They're the best at reclaiming momentum. Sleep is important, but so is momentum. And when you can't control one, you must master the other. The world belongs to those who know how to reset their state at will, who can choose confidence over fatigue, energy over dread, and action over apathy. So tomorrow morning, try it. Just once. Stand like you've already won. Splash cold truth onto your skin. Watch what happens next. Even with just 3 hours of sleep, you might just feel like a champion. And champions don't wait for energy. They create it. 9. Kill 'em with kindness. The underrated trick that destroys drama instantly. It starts with a spark, an insult, a passive-aggressive comment, a pointed glance. In seconds, tension thickens like fog rolling across a battlefield. You know what's coming. Drama, a clash of egos, a verbal duel no one really wins. But what if, instead of firing back or silently retreating, you did the unthinkable? What if you smiled? What if you responded with kindness? Not sarcastic or fake, but calm, grounded. Unexpected kindness, it sounds soft, it sounds weak. But make no mistake, this is a psychological power move. To kill 'em with kindness isn't a cliché. It's a covert weapon that dismantles tension, short-circuits aggression, and forces even the most confrontational person into a silent, emotional reckoning. And in this chapter, we'll explore why kindness, when used with intention, is the most underestimated tool in human conflict, how it works, and how you can use it to destroy drama before it ever begins. Kindness as a counterpunch picture. Drama like a fire. Conflict is the oxygen. Anger, the gasoline. Most people throw on more fuel with defensiveness, sarcasm, or emotional escalation. But kindness is like pouring cold water over the flames. Not sweetness, not naivete. Strategic kindness. It's the act of responding in a way so contrary to what the aggressor expects that it destabilizes their narrative. You confuse the emotional pattern they were counting on. They lash out expecting resistance. You offer empathy. They push. You soften. Suddenly, the script is broken. Without conflict to push against, their drama has nothing to latch onto. You've disarmed them, not by fighting, but by refusing to fight. The power of emotional judo. Think of kindness as the emotional version of judo, a martial art that uses the opponent's energy against them. Instead of meeting force with force, you redirect it. The attacker stumbles under their own momentum. Drama thrives on escalation. It feeds on emotional reaction. But when you give nothing back but warmth, the aggressor is left swinging at air. It's not surrender. It's a trap they never saw coming. Imagine someone raising their voice, accusing you unfairly, and you calmly respond, "I hear that you're upset, and I want to understand." Or simply, "Thanks for letting me know how you feel." It's not weakness, it's emotional redirection. It catches them off guard, destabilizes their control, and shows you are unshakable. Kindness triggers discomfort in aggressors. Why does this work so well? Because when someone chooses drama, they often expect one of 3 reactions: retaliation, a fight; submission, you collapse; avoidance, you ghost them. What they don't expect is warmth. True kindness, especially when met with cruelty, triggers cognitive dissonance. Their brain says, "I was supposed to dominate or upset you. Why aren't you reacting?" Suddenly, the mirror turns inward. They feel exposed, even foolish. Kindness shines a light on their behavior like nothing else. In fact, many people retreat or apologize not because they feel bad, but because they feel seen. And nothing disrupts a manipulator like being seen for who they really are. Real-life drama diffusion. A story. Take Alina, a customer service manager, at a high-pressure tech company. Every week she was berated by an entitled client who spoke to her like she was beneath him. Her coworkers advised her to push back or escalate the issue. Instead, she began every call with cheer and calm. When he interrupted, she let him finish, then gently clarified the facts. When he accused her of incompetence, she said, "I understand this situation is frustrating. Let's find a way through it together." After 3 weeks, the yelling stopped. By week 6, the client was thanking her. She hadn't won a power struggle. She had eliminated it. Her kindness wasn't submission, it was a refusal to participate in emotional warfare. And it worked. Kindness is control. We often confuse kindness with softness. But in the hands of the emotionally intelligent, it's a form of total control. Because kindness is not about letting others walk on you, it's about saying, "You don't get to dictate my state. You don't get to drag me into the mud. You can yell, but I will remain composed." In this way, kindness is a wall, a calm, serene, unbreakable wall. And behind it, you remain untouchable. That's real power. The psychological shift. Turning kindness into a habit. It's easy to say, harder to do. Especially when someone's jabbing at your patience, your pride, or your peace. But here's the key. Make kindness a default posture, not a reaction. Breathe deeply before responding. Ask yourself, what does this person really want? Respect, control, acknowledgement. Give them just enough humanity to disarm them, but no more than they deserve. Keep your voice steady, your face relaxed, your energy firm. With practice, you'll start noticing a shift. Not just in others, but in yourself. You'll become the calm in the chaos. The thermostat, not the thermometer. Drama stops at your doorstep because you don't feed it. When kindness isn't about them at all. Sometimes the person causing drama is not worth fixing or saving. They're too toxic, too far gone. Okay, here's the twist. Your kindness isn't for them, it's for you. You choose kindness not because they earned it, but because you want to live with peace, with dignity, with clarity of who you are. You don't lower yourself to meet someone else's chaos. You elevate the room by refusing to play their game. You kill them with kindness, not for revenge, not to win points, but to stay in control of the only thing that truly matters, your state. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who smiles. There's a quiet threat in the person who doesn't react, the one who listens when others yell, the one who chooses calm over chaos, the one who responds with kindness even when poked and provoked. That person can't be rattled, they can't be manipulated, they can't be dragged down. They don't destroy drama by attacking it, they destroy it by starving it. So the next time someone comes for you with drama, don't react, don't fight, don't explain yourself into exhaustion. Smile. Say something kind, and watch their fire flicker out in the silence of your strength. That's not weakness. That's dominance, disguised as grace. 10. Don't say do this. Say this instead and watch people actually do it. There's a thin, invisible line between a command and a connection. Cross it the wrong way, and people resist. Cross it the right way, and they follow willingly, often, without realizing why. Most of us were taught to communicate clearly, to be direct, even assertive. Do this, we say. Finish that. Stop doing this. The intent is efficiency. The result? Resistance. because people don't like to be told what to do. There's a subtle psychological truth we often overlook. The moment you issue a direct command, especially without context or care, you trigger something ancient in the human brain, a quiet but stubborn rebellion. It whispers, "Don't tell me what to do." This chapter is about that whisper and how to avoid provoking it. It's about turning that inner resistance into willing cooperation. And it all starts with changing how you speak, not what you mean. Let's explore why saying "do this" backfires, and the surprisingly effective alternative that makes people want to do what you say, without pushback, without drama, without domination. The problem with "do this." Imagine someone, Joe, walks into your space and without greeting says, "Clean that up. Finish this now. Turn that off." Even if the request is reasonable, something inside you flinches, your spine stiffens, your mind momentarily hesitates or outright rejects the instruction. That's not immaturity or ego, that's autonomy. Humans are wired to protect their sense of freedom. When that freedom feels threatened, even by small everyday commands, the subconscious protests. This is known in psychology as reactance, a mental pushback that occurs when someone feels their autonomy is being restricted. "Do this" is often heard not as guidance but control, and the more intelligent, confident, or independent a person is, the more reactance you'll trigger with that tone. Not because they're defiant, but because they crave ownership over their choices. So if "do this" causes resistance, what's the alternative? Let's dive into the secret. The power of subtle suggestion. The alternative to direct command is not weak or uncertain. It's strategic suggestion. It's language that maintains the other person's sense of agency while still directing their attention exactly where you want it. Instead of, "Do this now," try, "You might want to consider doing this next. It tends to work better." Instead of, "Don't talk during the presentation," try, "Let's keep this space quiet so we can all stay focused." Instead of, "Get this report done by 2 p.m., try, "It'd be great to have this wrapped up by 2 p.m. so we're all aligned." These aren't weaker statements. They're smarter, because they do two things simultaneously. They guide the person. They preserve their dignity and freedom. You're not telling them. You're inviting them, and people accept invitations far more readily than ultimatums. The Jedi mind trick of framing. Let's borrow a metaphor from magic. Direct commands are like trying to push a rope, clumsy and inefficient. Indirect suggestions are like pulling it, subtle, smooth, controlled. Framing is everything. And great leaders, communicators, and influencers know this. They don't say, "Start working on this now." They say, "If we can get started on this, soon we'll avoid the crunch later." That usually makes the end smoother for everyone. Notice how the outcome is the same, but the tone is softer, the intention clearer, and the emotional resistance lower. You don't feel coerced. You feel guided. This is the power of framing, and it's not manipulation. It's mastery, the art of embedded commands. Now let's go one layer deeper. There's a technique used in persuasive language called embedded commands, phrases that hide the directive inside a larger, more neutral sentence. This makes the suggestion less obvious but more psychologically potent. Examples. When you start writing things down, you'll notice your focus improves. Hidden command, start writing things down. Most people who succeed tend to take action early. Hidden command, take action early. Why does this work? Because the brain absorbs instructions more willingly when it doesn't feel threatened by them. The directive is cloaked inside a truth or observation. It feels safe. This is why skillful communicators don't bark orders. They guide minds, replace control with collaboration. If you want someone to follow through, not just once but consistently, then collaboration is your superpower. Say you're a manager. You need your team to finish a task by end of day. You could say, I need this done by 5 p.m. Or you could say, what's your bandwidth like today? If we can wrap this by 5, it'll keep everything moving on track. Doable? The second option doesn't sound like a command. It sounds like a shared mission. People don't resist what they help create. This principle applies at home, at work, in relationships, and even in parenting. Ask, involve, invite. Let others feel like they're part of the decision, not the subject of your authority. The psychological reward. Ownership. When people are given choice, even perceived choice, they engage more deeply. This is known as the IKEA effect in behavioral science. People value things more when they feel they built them. Give someone the illusion of choice and their motivation spikes. So instead of saying, do it this way, say, here are 2 ways we could approach this. What do you think works best? Now, when they choose, they own the action. And ownership increases follow-through. You didn't trick them. You empowered them. That's how influence works best. Not with force, but with partnership. Watch your tone. Command versus invitation. Sometimes it's not just the words, but the delivery. Can't you help with this? With a tone of curiosity and gratitude, feels warm and cooperative. But say it flatly or impatiently, and it becomes a thinly veiled order. Tone can turn even kind words into knives. To master this art, speak slowly, smile slightly, use downward inflections to sound calm, not desperate. Make your voice an extension of your intention, not your anxiety. People mirror energy. The more grounded you are, the more willingly they'll follow your lead. The true language of influence is respect. Influence is not about power. It's about perception. When you say, do this, you may be factually correct but emotionally wrong. Because people follow not the smartest person in the room, but the one who makes them feel seen, valued, and respected. Speak in a way that honors their autonomy, and they'll give you their attention and their action freely. The next time you're tempted to issue a command, pause. Ask yourself, how can I say this in a way that invites, not demands? Do that consistently, and you'll unlock one of the most powerful forms of leadership there is, the kind where people want to follow you, not because they have to, but because they choose to. 11. The shoe stare trick. How to psych out creepy subway stalkers without saying a word. In a world that's increasingly crowded, chaotic, and sometimes unnerving, the feeling of being watched in public, especially in enclosed spaces like subways, can be deeply unsettling. There's a particular discomfort that creeps in when you sense eyes following you. The kind of slow, lingering attention that isn't about curiosity or coincidence, but about power. You feel it before you see it. That invisible thread of unwanted attention crawls up your spine, raising hairs you didn't know were paying attention. You shift in your seat, pretend to be interested in your phone, adjust your bag, and yet that presence doesn't go away. It stays, watching, feeding on your discomfort. What if, instead of shrinking under that pressure, you could flip the script? What if you could turn the table, not with a shout or confrontation, but with a silent psychological counterstrike? Welcome to the shoe stare trick. This isn't just a gimmick. It's a subtle, powerful form of body language that flips the balance of power in seconds. Without saying a word, you project a message so clear, so discomforting to your watcher, that they instinctively back off. Let's dissect how and why this works, and how you can use it to reclaim your sense of control in vulnerable moments. Deseo. Predator-prey dynamic. Every act of stalking or leering in public is based on a silent assumption. The one being watched is passive, a target, someone unlikely to push back. Creeps thrive on this perceived power imbalance. They assume you'll look away, shrink, ignore them. It's a predator-prey dynamic, and predators don't like being watched back, especially not in ways they don't understand. This is where the shoe stare trick turns the tables. By directing your gaze not into their eyes, but directly at their shoes or lower body, you introduce a confusing reversal. Most people expect confrontation to involve eye contact, but this move subverts that. It's not just weird, it's unsettling, because it doesn't follow the expected script. Why it works. Psychological disruption. The human brain is wired to make sense of social cues quickly. In public spaces, we rely on predictable behaviors to gauge safety. Eye contact means interest or threat. Looking away signals passivity or discomfort. When someone violates that pattern, it triggers an alert in the other person's subconscious. When you intentionally stare at a stalker's shoes, not their face, it sends a scrambled signal that the brain can't immediately process. It creates a sudden sense of unease. Imagine it. You glance up, catch them staring. Instead of looking away, you drop your eyes and fixate on their shoes. No movement, no blinking, just a still, steady stare, like you're memorizing them. They shift. They feel it. And they don't know why it's bothering them so much. This is psychological disruption in its purest form. You didn't raise your voice, you didn't even make eye contact, but you shifted the power. Metaphor. The mirror, that warps back. Think of creepy subway stalkers like shadows. They gain strength when you act like light. Bright, visible but always moving away. But when you become a mirror, reflecting them back in unexpected ways, they lose their edge. And when that mirror distorts, bends the image, like a funhouse mirror that makes them question their own appearance, they recoil. That's what the shoe stare does. It doesn't reflect who they are. It reflects the fact that you see them, and not in the way they expect. How to execute the shoe stare trick. Step 1. Identify the gaze. You feel it before you confirm it. But don't panic. Lift your eyes just enough to verify. Make sure the person is indeed giving you unwanted attention. Step 2. The drop. Do not make prolonged eye contact. Instead, after a second of confirmation, drop your gaze deliberately to their shoes. Not quickly, not nervously. Slowly, with focus, like you're noticing something unusual about them. Step 3. Hold it. Keep your gaze on their shoes for 3 to 5 seconds. This is the psychological sweet spot. Long enough to be noticed, short enough to remain nonverbal. Your stillness is the weapon here. Step 4. Look away casually. When you're done, break the gaze and return to your phone or surroundings. Act entirely, unaffected. Your lack of reaction completes the disruption. Advanced tactics. The double tap. For persistent creepers, a second round amplifies the effect. After a minute or two, glance up again. If they're still watching, repeat the shoe stare, but this time with a slight head tilt, as if something really doesn't add up about them. That's when the paranoia kicks in. They're no longer watching you. They're wondering what you noticed about them. And that's the moment the power shifts completely. When silence speaks louder than confrontation. Why not just tell them off? Why not scream or change seats? In some cases, you should. Safety always comes first. But there are moments when confrontation might escalate things or draw unwanted attention to you instead. In these situations, the shoe stare is the elegant alternative, assertive but not aggressive, safe but powerful, quiet but unmistakably dominant. It gives you back your space without a single word. Real stories. When the trick stopped a stalker cold. A woman in New York once recounted using the eye shoe stare trick on a late-night train. A man across from her kept leering. She stared directly at his shoes for 5 seconds. Then again. He fidgeted, looked away, and moved to the next car. He didn't understand what she was doing, but he felt something shift. And that's the point. This isn't about scaring people. It's about sending a silent, strange signal that says, I see you, and I'm not the one who should be afraid. What makes this trick so potent? It disrupts patterns. Creeps expect fear. You give them calm calculation. It protects your voice. You don't need to speak to reclaim power. It avoids escalation. It keeps the encounter nonverbal, giving you control without creating a scene. It creates confusion. Most people don't know how to respond to this, and that confusion is your shield. It's the mental judo of subway survival. Use their own expectations against them. Confidence is contagious, even when silent. The shoe stare trick is more than a tactic. It's a signal. A boundary line drawn in silence. A reminder that your body language speaks volumes even when your mouth is closed. In a world that often asks you to ignore discomfort to keep the peace, this trick gives you a third option. Quiet defiance. Not aggression. Not retreat. Just enough. Presence to say, I am not prey. And for many, that's enough to make the shadows shrink back where they belong. 12. How to accuse without blame. The sentence structure that softens every blow. There is a fragile line between confrontation and connection, and often it hinges on just a few words. Relationships, whether personal, professional, or casual, aren't destroyed by the mere presence of disagreement, but by the way that disagreement is delivered. Accusation feels like a hammer, heavy, cold, and destructive. But what if you could turn that hammer into a scalpel, precise, controlled, and even healing? We often avoid calling out behavior because we fear the emotional detonation it might cause. We hold our tongue, thinking silence keeps the peace. But suppressed tension doesn't vanish, it festers. And when it finally erupts, it often arrives, with blame, shame, and irreversible damage. This chapter is not about avoiding confrontation, it's about reshaping it, about learning the art of accusing without blaming. Because the truth is, how we say something is often more important than what we say. The problem with you language. Let's begin with the most common mistake. Starting with you. You never listen. You always make me feel like I'm not enough. You forgot, again. These statements may feel honest, but they strike like arrows. You turns the other person into a target. Their walls go up. Even if what you're saying is true, the moment you point the verbal finger, the conversation becomes a battleground. Humans are biologically wired to respond defensively to perceived attacks. It's survival instinct. In ancient times, being blamed or exiled by the tribe could mean death. Today, it's emotional exile we fear. Rejection, shame, humiliation. That's why you statements almost always shut down open communication. Instead, we must learn to shift the focus from accusation to experience. The golden shift, from you to I and it. The transformative key lies in reframing. Compare these two. You make everything about yourself. I feel dismissed when the conversation circles back to the same topic. The first accuses. The second invites reflection. The core technique is built on 3 pillars. State your observation neutrally. Express your feeling. Make a specific request or clarify your need. This structure softens the impact while maintaining clarity. It sounds like, when specific event happens, I feel emotion because reason. Would you be open to reasonable request? It's subtle, but it's magic. Metaphor, the velvet glove versus the spiked fist picture, your words like hands. One clenched into a fist spiked with blame, the other, open, wrapped in velvet. Both are reaching toward someone. One will be met with fear or retaliation. The other might be taken, tentatively, even in tension. The sentence structure we're exploring is the velvet glove. It doesn't remove the truth, it simply delivers it in a way that feels safe enough to be heard. Real-life applications in a relationship instead of, you never help me with anything around the house. Say, when I come home to see dishes still in the sink, I feel overwhelmed and alone in managing everything. Could we agree on a way to share this more evenly? At work, instead of, you keep ignoring my emails. Say, I noticed I didn't get a reply to the last message I sent. I'm feeling a bit unsure about the direction. Can we touch base so I know we're aligned? With friends, instead of, you always cancel last minute. Say, when plans fall through at the last minute, I feel like I'm not a priority. I'd really value a bit more notice so we can stay connected. This approach doesn't dilute the message, it dignifies it. It gives the other person space to respond rather than react. Why it works. The science of soft startup psychologist Dr. John Gottman, renowned for his research on marital stability, discovered a concept called the soft startup. It's the idea that how a conversation begins determines how it will end. Criticism and blame trigger defensiveness. Gentle observations and feelings encourage listening and empathy. People are more likely to change when they don't feel shamed into it. Your goal is not to crush the other person with the weight of your frustration. Your goal is to create a bridge, a way for them to meet you in the middle. The right sentence structure is that bridge. The emotional equation. Let's break down the psychological formula behind this. Blame triggers defensiveness. Defensiveness prevents responsibility. No responsibility leads to no change, but expression triggers understanding. Understanding creates empathy. Empathy allows for accountability. This is why your phrasing matters. It's not manipulation. It's clarity, compassion, and courage bundled into words. Bonus formula. The feel, need, ask. Structure. Sometimes you don't even need to point out a behavior. You can simply focus on your emotional need. I'm feeling a little disconnected lately. I think I really need some quality time, maybe even just a short walk together. Would you be up for that sometime this week? Notice how there's no blame, no history, no pressure. Just honest emotional expression and a gentle, actionable request. You're still making a powerful point. But you're doing it like water, persistent, clear, and soft enough to slip past defenses. When to use this and when not to. This approach works in most situations, especially where the goal is to preserve or heal the relationship. It's ideal for difficult conversations with loved ones, workplace tensions, requests for change in behavior, apologies, and misunderstandings. However, In situations of abuse or manipulation, this method won't be enough. In those cases, safety and boundaries, not diplomacy, must come first. Don't use soft language to tiptoe around people who thrive on your discomfort. Use it for people you want to keep in your life, who just need a better mirror to see how their actions affect you. The power of language. Without the poison, you don't have to roar to be powerful. You don't have to lash out to be heard. The most transformative truths often arrive gently, in sentences that begin not with, "You did this," but with, "Here's how I feel." It's not weakness to choose your words carefully. It's wisdom, emotional intelligence, and power. Because when you master the ability to accuse without blame, you don't just avoid fights, you create change. And change that comes through. Connection, not coercion, is the kind that lasts. Speak. Like a sculptor doesn't destroy the stone with a hammer. They carve it with precision. They chip away until something beautiful, true, and enduring emerges. When you speak, especially in moments of conflict, be that sculptor. Accuse, if you must. But do it like an artist, with care, with purpose, and with the kind of sentence structure that doesn't shatter hearts, but opens them. 13. Didn't sleep well? Lie to yourself. Science says it works. Seriously. There's a certain fog that clings to your mind after a rough night's sleep. You drag yourself out of bed with sandpaper eyes, your brain groggy and movements sluggish. You stare at the mirror and say what we've all said at least once. I'm going to crash today. It feels like fact, like doom baked into the day ahead. But what if I told you that your belief about how you slept is more powerful than the sleep itself? Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But science is whispering something fascinating into the ears of the exhausted. Your brain is shockingly gullible, and you can use that to your advantage. The sleep lie that works like a charm. Let's talk placebo. You've probably heard of it in medicine. Sugar pills curing headaches simply because the patient believes they're taking something powerful. But this strange psychological phenomenon doesn't just apply to pills. It applies to perception, including sleep. In a groundbreaking 2014 study from Colorado College, researchers told participants that the quality of their sleep, measured through sleep percentages, impacted cognitive performance. Participants were randomly assigned a high-quality or low-quality sleep rating regardless of how they actually slept. The result? Those told they had slept well performed significantly better on tests of attention and memory, even if they hadn't slept well at all. In essence, they lied to their brains, and their brains played along. The brain as a storyteller. Your mind is not a cold calculator. It's a storyteller, a meaning maker. It stitches together feelings, predictions, and fragments of experience into a narrative. If that narrative is, "I didn't sleep, so I'm doomed," your brain prepares for disaster. It turns down cognitive energy, saps motivation, and highlights fatigue. But if the story is, "I feel oddly refreshed today. Maybe I didn't sleep as poorly as I thought," the brain recalibrates. It reassigns resources, adjusts attention, and acts as though you're genuinely okay. Here's the strange truth. Your subjective belief about how rested you are can influence your objective performance. You are not always tired because you're tired. Sometimes you're tired because you keep telling yourself that you are, the morning mirror lie that becomes truth. Imagine this scene. You had a rough night, maybe nightmares, maybe a sick child, or just the endless scroll of anxiety. You get up and feel heavy. But instead of saying, "Today's going to suck," you look in the mirror and say, "I slept just enough to feel sharp." My body is surprisingly energized. I've had worse nights and still crushed the day. I've got this. This isn't denial. It's reframing. And your brain listens. Just as a placebo can trigger healing, this lie can activate performance. It's the difference between dragging through your day and gliding through it on the momentum of your own belief. The metaphor: your brain is like a thermostat. Think of your brain like a smart thermostat in your home. It doesn't just respond to temperature, it responds to commands. Tell it we're cold, and it heats up. Tell it we're hot, and it cools down. But what if the thermostat only thinks the room is cold? It still reacts. That's your mind. If you tell it, I'm exhausted, I can't function, it starts dimming the lights inside. But tell it, I'm okay, I've got energy, and it begins supplying power to the parts that matter: alertness, confidence, memory. You are programming your mental thermostat every morning. The temperature of your day depends on it, when the lie becomes reality. At first, this technique feels strange, fake, maybe even silly. But the brain doesn't require complete honesty. It requires certainty. By consistently telling yourself you're rested and capable even when you're not, you start to believe it. And belief rewires reality. Athletes call it mental priming. Performers call it self-activation. Psychologists call it cognitive restructuring. Whatever the term, the result is the same. Your words shape your world. Say, I'm going to alert, and your neurons pay attention. Say, I'm done, and they slow down to match. Your inner dialogue becomes your biological cue. But isn't lying to yourself delusional? That's a fair question. The answer lies in intention. You're not pretending you're Superman. You're not denying reality. You're leveraging the flexibility of your perception to shift your mindset toward functionality, not fantasy. In fact, this is no different from what elite military units do during high-stress missions. Soldiers are trained to focus on mission, objectives, not physical discomfort. In battle, sleep deprivation is expected, but mission success depends on what they tell themselves about their capacity, not the hours they spent horizontal. If elite warriors can do it, so can you, with a laptop and a coffee mug. Practical ways to use the sleep lie. Here's how to deploy this mental trick with finesse. Change your morning script. Instead of, I barely slept, I'm going to crash. Say, my brain is adjusting. I'll hit my stride by mid-morning. Instead of, today's going to be rough. Say, I've handled worse. I'm already surprising myself. Use action to confirm the lie. Your behavior reinforces your belief. Stand tall, move briskly, smile. These send signals to your brain. We're fine. And then, suddenly, you are. Avoid sleep talk. Don't bring up how little you slept. Don't complain. The more you talk about it, the more you convince yourself it's true. Let silence protect your placebo. Visualize energy. Close your eyes. Imagine light flowing through your limbs, your chest, your head. Picture your cells humming with energy. Your brain often responds to imagery more strongly than facts. When the lie doesn't work, and what to do then? Of course, there are limits. You can't fake your way through days on end without rest. Chronic sleep deprivation does damage that. Optimism can't erase. But on those occasional off nights and the ones where you had 3-4 hours or were up from 3 to 5 a.m., this trick works. And it works better the more you trust it. If your body begins